Yo, what is going on guys, Flashverse here and welcome back to another video on Superman and Lois, and this will be my review and breakdown for Superman and Lois Season 1 Episode 8 titled Holding the Wrench. And once again guys, Superman and Lois slaps us with another banger. I'm honestly speechless about how freaking good this show is. And yeah, we had some Crisis on Infinite Earths Easter eggs, we had the whole topic of the multiverse being brought back, and we had some great Superman and John Henry Irons moments which I just cannot wait to talk about. But most importantly, we have got to talk about the MVP for this episode, that being Lois Lane. But giving you guys my quick initial thoughts about this episode before I actually go more into a breakdown style where I talk about every scene and give you guys my thoughts on those, this episode was just insane. I am literally out of words. Every character's storylines were on point. We had more of that Morgan Edge Kryptonian mystery developing, and I cannot wait to see where that goes for the episodes to come. We had some pretty damn intense Captain Luthor or John Henry Irons and Superman moments, and we had some insane Lois Lane scenes with Bitsy Tilloch killing it with her acting this episode, and I cannot wait to talk about that as well. But for those who haven't seen the episode, first, spoiler alert, because this is a review and breakdown after all, so there will be some major spoilers which you certainly wouldn't want to hear from me. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch the episode and come back later for this review and breakdown. But for those who are staying, be sure to drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you are aware of more Arrowverse content coming your way. Okay, so this episode kind of kicks off in like the future, I guess, where we have Lois heading to her psychiatrist to basically recap all that's happened with her life and like the struggles she is facing. And basically this talk she's having with her psychiatrist is like spread out throughout the episode, and this does pretty much foreshadow what's about to happen during the episode. But I did like that because it did keep me hooked in regards to like what's happening. I wanted to know why Lois Lane was basically having these struggles. But we then join up with the Kent family fixing the truck. We have Clark basically using his powers to pull the metal back into place so the car doesn't look like it's dented. And we have Lois going to investigate the RV that John Henry Irons used, while Clark goes to the DOD to question John Henry Irons. We also have Jonathan asking Lois to help because he thinks he could be more useful than he was fixing the car, because Clark and Jordan basically had that handled and Jonathan pretty much felt useless, whereas with Lois he would feel a lot more useful. So I did really like that. Now we then head to the Cushing home and we have Sarah and Kyle basically practice and prepare for a song so Sarah can audition for a play. And we have Sarah being like hesitant at first, like she doesn't want to do it, and then eventually she ends up wanting to do it. Now at the DOD we have Clark interrogating John Henry Irons, and this talk was pretty intense. We had John Henry Irons talking about what he's done to his family. Well, the version of Clark we see on the screen has done to his family. So yeah, I did really like that, and we did have like the soldiers feeling bothered about it as well. We had Clark feeling bothered, and I thought it was pretty cool. At the RV we had Lois and Jonathan, and we find out that the AI has Lois Lane's name registered onto the car, so basically it doesn't end up going into some weaponry, which we're going to talk about later on. But Lois is going to question who John Henry Irons is, in which the AI essentially puts up like a monitor, and they find out who John Henry Irons is, and they find out the whole history with his version of Lois Lane and the family which John Henry Irons had together on his Earth. We did also have a scene which I really wanted to talk about, and that was the Captain Luthor basically flying out to space, I guess, and Dark Superman or Evil Superman from Luthor's world chasing after him. And I thought that was a pretty intense scene. We have like Evil Superman trying to get hold of John Henry Irons and basically take him down, and then we have this like wave of red light just appearing, and I think that that was actually the antimatter wave or something from Crisis on Infinite Earths. And that's how John Henry Irons actually ended up on Earth Prime. I could be wrong about that. I think that's pretty much what everybody thinks. But that short fight scene between Evil Superman or Dark Superman and John Henry Irons was pretty sick. Yeah, I cannot wait to see where this goes. Now the thing I'm wondering is Evil Superman actually dead, or is he like Captain Luthor where he ended up somewhere else? Maybe eventually it's going to be Evil Superman who ends up becoming the main villain for the season. I don't know, it's just a theory I have, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, during the talk between John Henry Irons and Clark, we basically had John Henry Irons talking about how these people are Kryptonians and they're basically Clark's people. So he begins to explain like how on his Earth, Kal-El decided to join his Kryptonian people and basically turn on humanity. Now we have Lois continuing her therapy sessions, hinting at some scorched earth speech she is going to give, and obviously is going to foreshadow what's about to happen in like the next speech, I think it was, when her and the therapist talk. But yeah, she's talking about more about her struggles and like she shouldn't have lashed out on someone like that. And I was pretty hooked. I was like, okay, wait, what is this about? Because it seems like she's going to lash out on someone. Yeah, she does lash out on someone pretty badly, in which we're about to talk about in just a second. Though we rejoin with Clark back at the DOD, where he and Lois talk over the phone about what to do with John Henry Irons in regards to the whole thing with his family being dead, and how Clark could essentially get through to him to show that he is not a bad person, unlike the Superman from his world. But we have General Samuel Lane deciding to step in and basically talk to John Henry Irons, but the military has a torture agent on the ready just in case he's not ready to communicate, in which Superman tells them not to involve such torturous methods. They just want to get through to Captain Luthor or John Henry Irons via talking to him. But yeah, Samuel Lane thinks that he could actually tap into John Henry Irons since they were very, very close from his world. But we head back to Jonathan, and Jonathan heads to the RV, and he basically sees the footage of Dark Superman killing Lois, and I thought that was a pretty cool scene. The actor who plays Jonathan Kent, I cannot remember his name, but he was really, really great during this episode as well. And essentially he finds John Henry Irons' stash of guns, and the RV begins to go into lockdown because his authorization wasn't accepted, because Jonathan Kent wasn't part of the people who basically had control of the RV. It was just him and Lois Lane, I guess, in which he's going to die in 20 minutes. So that was a pretty intense scene. So Clark has to abandon the DOD investigation to save Jonathan, because Jonathan's literally locked up and he's about to die, and Lois cannot get into the RV because it's on lockdown. So we basically have Clark arriving. He punches the door out and he goes in and uses his heat vision to destroy the weapons, and he saves his son. And essentially we find out that Jonathan was pretty much just looking for a way to contribute, because as he says, Jordan and Clark are essentially weapons. He cannot do the things which Jordan and Clark can do. So if he's in such danger, he's going to need something to save himself as well, because he was just inches away from dying, and if Clark hadn't been there, then he probably would have been dead. So Jonathan wants something so that he could obviously save himself in a given situation. But this is where we essentially have Lois just losing on Jonathan. Any word which literally comes out of her mouth, she explodes with, and this is basically due to her fear in involving him in their dangerous world, and it's basically pushed her to the edge. And obviously her son nearly died, so she is kind of in the right. But yeah, she's gone mental on Jonathan. Yeah, Clark suggests that Lois goes to see the counselor after her blow up, because this isn't Lois. Lois was pretty damn angry during this scene. We then end up finding out what this whole therapist situation was about, and it was obviously about Jonathan and her fear in about to losing her son. But also we do have like that tiny bit of other reasons in regards to Lois blowing up on Jonathan. Though we then have Leslie Lar planting a lie in Kyle's head that he could have had a position in his company, in which Kyle goes to confront Lon about this, and this basically, makes the relationship between Kyle and Lana even worse. So I cannot wait to see where that goes. Now, during Lois's therapy session, we obviously have Lois talking about her son and how nearly he almost died due to something he did, which was pretty reckless. And this is where we get the reveal of Lois's miscarriage. They were about to have a daughter until she obviously died. She was going to be named Natalie, just like Captain Luthor's daughter. It was basically a name from Lois's grandmother. So yeah, That scene caught me pretty damn off guard because I wasn't expecting that at all. But essentially, we just have Lois blaming herself for her miscarriage, and she just hasn't forgiven herself, which was also a contributing factor in regards to her yelling at Jonathan because she's lost a kid before and she cannot risk losing another one again. But at the DoD, we have General Samuel Lane, who is now continuing to talk to John Henry Irons, and basically he says, like, if you're not willing to communicate, I have these different torture methods which my other worker is going to use, in which John Henry Irons knows that this isn't the way which General Lane operates, so he uses that as an advantage. And he also mentions to Samuel Lane that Clark will turn. These Kryptonians are his people, so there will be a time when these Kryptonians arrive, he's going to turn on humanity and basically go with his people, the Kryptonians, and that he should be stopped because he's dangerous. And also he does mention to Samuel Lane that Clark was the one that killed them as well. But we then have John Henry Irons being dragged back to his cell, in which we find out that one of the members in the DoD who work with General Samuel Lane are an ex-Kryptonian, and he's basically taking John Henry Irons to interrogation. Now we then have Jordan at the audition to basically cheer on Sarah, and Jonathan arrives to tell what happened between him and his mom. And we also have Kyle missing the audition, which makes Sarah not happy about it. And yeah, it's Sarah's turn, so Sarah is in like a very bad predicament, in which Jordan steps in and he basically plays the piano for Sarah so Sarah can obviously perform. So I thought that was a pretty good scene as well. Now we have Rossetti at DoD taking John Henry Irons to Section 5, where Project 7734 is, and there are essentially weapons being designed there to kill Superman, in which General Samuel Lane warns Superman about the lab and that he cannot go because there are so many stashes of kryptonite over there and there's a chance that he may not make it out there. But Superman doesn't listen, he just goes anyway. We basically have him fighting Rossetti with the same powers, but the only thing is Clark has a weakness. So yeah, we have Clark entering Project 7734. This is where we have Rossetti using Kryptonian gas on him. Obviously it's kryptonite, Superman's biggest weakness. So yeah, Clark is at a big disadvantage, but eventually there is a time where Clark was able to get the better, but so was Rossetti. This is where we have John Henry Irons eventually killing Rossetti, and then he has this kryptonite spear being aimed at Clark's heart. This is when we have Lois arriving in time just to talk John down. I thought this was a pretty good way in regards to talking down villains, whereas like the Flash is just so sudden, Barry just talks down villains like that, whereas for this it's kind of been building up, which was something I really liked. But in the final moments of this episode, we have General Samuel Lane and Superman discussing Project 7734 and basically the whole manufacturing of this kryptonite gas and attacking Clark's respiratory system so that it weakens him from the inside rather than the outside. And Clark has lost some trust within Samuel Lane because of this, and Lane is basically going to have to go to different lengths to get his trust back. But we then have Clark mentioning the theory to Lane, which Lois has, in which it's basically so that these Kryptonian consciousness are basically put into ex-kryptonite bodies, and basically the spirits might replace the humans, which is why those military officers and like other people exposed to ex-kryptonite weren't really being themselves. Yeah, I cannot wait to see where this goes. But we then have Lois going to explain how she lost her baby to Jonathan, and she wrongly took it out on Jonathan. And I thought this was such a great scene. Lois and Jonathan are basically the two ordinary people in a family of supers, and Lois will teach Jonathan how to cope with that. I absolutely love that scene. The dialogue and just the acting in general, both of those actors just killed it, and I absolutely loved the scene. Lois was by far the MVP of this episode. I had nothing against pretty much anyone in the episode, but Lois was definitely my top for this episode. But we then have Superman visiting John Henry Irons to basically lend a friendly face and start a trust dialogue. He basically says that he's going to need all the help he can get to face off Morgan Edge, if Morgan Edge was actually planning on building this army of supers, in which we find out that John Henry Irons is just free to leave. He's not ready to basically trust Superman just yet. Now I am very interested to see if this is all an act, or if John Henry Irons does actually become redeemed and he does work alongside Superman in taking down these ex-Kryptonite people. I'm very interested to see where this show will go. Overall, I thought this episode was amazing. It was probably one of my favorite episodes of the season. I absolutely loved this episode. And overall, I'll give this episode a solid 8.5 to maybe 9 out of 10. I really don't know which one to choose. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you guys have enjoyed the video, please give a like and subscribe. Be sure to tell me in the comment section down below what you guys thought about this episode. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video.